Great. Hello, everyone. Hello,
Evening.
Hello.
Yeah, so for those of you that might be new to the Guitar Builders Collective, which I'm hoping we're going to have some new people, because I'm trying my best to really promote this at the moment. I'm Daniel from Devil & Sons Guitars, and below me is Arran. I'm from Adair Guitars, and that's Scott from Bonehead, and we Bonehead Guitars. And the three of us have been hosting this is, I think, the 23rd episode. And we're all part of the Guitar Builders Collective, which is what brought us together. And I will talk more about that later on in the show. But essentially, it's a place for guitar builders to come and share and support each other. And then we've got some previous guests on. So we've got Gordon from Thaser Valken Guitars.
Hello.
Which my best thing I remember about the name for that one was you drew it out of a Scrabble bag.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And then at the end, at the top here, is Mark Gutierrez. And at the I can't point in the right direction is Curtis from Goth Rider Creations. Sorry. Yeah. So if you're joining us live, we've also got the live stream chat on the side. At some point today, I want to try something out. I haven't told everyone about this to get the chat a bit more involved. And also, if you're watching in the future, you can leave things in the comments as well. But we thought we'd try for the first one of the new year, having more of us on than normal. So we've not done this before. I don't know how it will run. But I thought it might be good just to start off with finding out if anyone was given anything by Santa or treated themselves like I did that was guitar building related. Oh, Scott.
I was watching, I can't even remember who I was watching. He was doing some of the really intricate stuff. He gluing a lot of junk together, and he had these obviously professional featherboards. And they looked pretty cool, so I actually looked them up and ordered me a couple for Christmas. I haven't had a chance to use them yet, but they look pretty nice. My dad had a tendency to pull all safety gear off of his stuff, so the $10,000 table saw that I inherited, it has no riving knife or anything, so figured at least featherboards would be nice.
Do you use your table saw a lot for the guitars?
Not a lot, but some, at least cutting stripes for necks and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of times it's easy to just pop over to the saw and, big blanks, you got to chop those somehow. There's not a whole lot of length I can push through the bandsaw, so, So that was
Anyone else treated themselves or anything?
So not tool related, but storage. I've got a second cabinet back there for smaller tools. So and labelled on the front now that there's two, just to have a bit of reorganisation and to remind myself where things are when I put them in new spots. So that's sort of found after I sort of finish each guitar, I just rearrange the storage and the workflow a little bit to just to fine tune things. So that's probably my not very exciting addition, but pretty useful.
Storage is important, I think.
I got to say the same thing. My favorite tool is my drawers.
Yep.
Like I love them. Yeah.
It's funny. I've got a book by Adam Savage in which he says drawers are the places that tools go to die, because you can't see them once they're in there. But then if you look at his workshop, he's constantly building drawers and things to put them in. And actually, I've started labelling all my drawers as well. I think having drawers neatly arranged is so useful. Yesterday, I cleared out 3 drawers that have had the same things in it since I put them there 4 years ago and haven't touched them. They've been in the bin.
Yeah. Well, mine are still neatly arranged, but I haven't started a new build with it like this yet. So we'll see how long it lasts. But there are a couple of drawers that are kind of the miscellaneous tools, so I suspect they might get a bit fuller as time progresses.
It's something I need to look into.
Me too.
I've been watching back on some of the old episodes. Some of you may have seen, and I'll put a link in the chat, in the video description, that I put together a few shorts which were sort of themed compilations of the past shows. And in watching them back a few times, Scott talks about how he embraces the mess of his workshop, how it's sort of part of how you work. Does that sound familiar? You look puzzled by that.
The little key important part there, you kind of fuzzed out and I couldn't hear.
Oh, I was talking about you don't mind your shop being a messy place.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly terrified I'm going to drop something, because if I do, I mean, I don't know. We need a detective and a magnet to find it. It's bad.
I finally got my workshop to a place where if I drop something, I'm able to find it again, unless it goes under the workbench, and then it's gone forever. Pingos, I think they call them. Ping, it's gone.
Yeah, I have a tendency not to sweep for a while, and I've actually toyed with the idea of during a build, just leaving everything on the floor so there was a record of leftover material at the end, just to see how much waste actually happened.
Have you got one of those big magnets on the end of a handle? They come in quite useful.
I don't, but more than once I've thought, I wish I had one.
Get one. It's well worth it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it goes.
You'd be amazed how many drill bits you find.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not doubt it.
And
I've still
Curtis,
got
I
in the
saw
back
you
of my
put your
mind
hand
the
up.
missing screw.
I saw you put your hand up for a moment, Curtis. Did you make your own tools like you always do?
No, I was quite lucky. My wife organised one of these like wish lists a couple of years ago, so then I can put in the kind of miscellaneous stuff that I don't need straight away but would like at some point. And I was lucky enough to get most of the parts I need to make my own pickup winder, so that was quite cool this year.
Oh, I hope we see a video of you making the pickup winder as well.
Oh, absolutely. The problem is I haven't got a motor. That's the only thing I'm missing. So I'm looking at my power drills, deciding which I don't quite need at the moment because I can't afford to buy a motor. So
I've got a hand-driven one. I've never used it.
me too.
Does it need a motor? It just needs a bit of time and elbow grease. I'm hoping.
How many wines does a pickup have?
2,000, is it? 2.5?
No, a bit
like
more.
10,000, I think.
I've built a few. That's my little homemade pickup winder up there. So, I've done some single coils and some P90s. My build-off guitar last year had my own pickups in it. So I think it was about 8,000 for the Strat one. So, but the motor that I've got on mine was I pulled it out of. Was it like one of those like car camping vacuums that you just sort of plug into the cigarette lighter? So rather than buying one, actually I bought one off eBay and it didn't work when I got it. So I pulled this one out. I thought I'll see what I've got. It was something I was going to get rid of. But it is for pickup winding. It is too fast, but I've got the variable speed control sort of built into it, and I find I only get up to about 10% of what the motor is capable of. So at some stage I'll switch that out, but at the moment it works fine. You just got to be a bit more careful about how fast you're winding.
Does anybody have any issues with the when it reaches the peak of the pickup, the long end, that constant up and down action breaks the wire?
No, not for what I've done so far.
I've never built a pickup before. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I think it's a feel thing. There's a gentleman I watch on YouTube. I think his name's Metal ATC, and he kind of designs his own sort of homebrew pickups from lumps of wood and various things. And he created his own pickup winder from a sewing machine he sort of cobbled together. And he said that the trick is to kind of almost unfocus your eyes and kind of just look at the top of it as it's spinning, and then as it's going at such a speed that you can kind of find your own place to wind. He said you will screw up the first couple, but once you've got an eye for it, it's not that bad.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
That may just be something I never get into.
Yeah, the old the corn flour between the fingertips, just if I don't have a tension or anything, but just to keep it moving through your fingers smoothly without the sweat or whatever.
You're talking about pickup winding, right?
Pickup winding, yeah, yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so things like that. But I haven't had any trouble with with sort of constantly breaking wire to the to be totally frustrated with it.
I think I'm going to get RSI.
We've actually got Mr. Glyn's pickups coming on in a few weeks' time, so maybe we can ask him for some pickup winding advice.
I'm really keen to chat to him. So I've said to you before, the guitar that I'm about to finish off, which was I started halfway through the year. I've actually got a set of his pickups to go in there, and that I'd bought those before. We'd sort of been in touch with him through this sort of channel and chatting on Instagram. So that was something that being a New Zealand sort of builder is sort of close-ish to where I am. So in Australia, there's a few people that I know sort of locally that have used his pickups and had a good reputation. So I'd sort of gone with those anyway to put in this current build. So I'm just going through the process of putting on the finish at the moment. So I'm hoping that I can get the guitar finished and the pickups in before we actually talk to him on the stream. Cause it'd be a bit embarrassing to not actually have played the pickups that I bought from him, a number of months ago now.
So look, I thought before we got into some topics for today, I'd try something out, and this is also open to everyone in the live chat to join in with. And I guess if you're watching in the future, you can put it in the chat as well. But just quickly, do any of you know what year the Les Paul first came out, production run? The first Les Paul. We call them gold tops now when we look back on it.
52.
Exactly right, Gordon. Yeah, 52. So I just want to do a really quick few question quiz. This is really cheesy, but hopefully it'll be fun. And start really easy. So what I thought was I'm just going to ask you some questions where it's about dates. So there's going to be an answer which is either before or after. So if you're in the chat, you can just type in before or after. But I guess on the screen, I thought we'd just use our fingers. Thumbs down would be before, a year before, and up would be a year after, a higher year. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm going to share a screen as well. Look at this. Window. That's a 1952 Gibson Les Paul Standard gold top. 34,000. I'm just saving up for that one. So, a really simple question. I'm sure you all know this. Did the Strat come out before or after? The Fender Strat. Up for after, down for before. Anyone in the chat want to add to it? In the live chat? Oh, big units going before, which is opposite of what everyone else was saying. So the Telecaster came out before, but yeah, the first Strat, let me see, I've got one of them here as well, 1954 Strats. So that came out 2 years after the Les Paul, going for 62,000. So twice the price. Of course, this is the price people putting them up for sale, not necessarily what they're going to sell for.
Twice the price.
Yeah. Can you imagine any of ours ever go? Well, of course not. That was the same year that Gibson released their what we call the Les Paul Custom, the 1954. But I couldn't find an actual 1954 custom. This is still called a gold top, but I think that's pretty much a custom. Anyway, so Gibson was founded in 1902, but was Epiphone before or after Gibson? So this is meant to be a bit educational as well. Some of you might know this.
No idea.
So we can do a guess. If you've got no idea, do you think Epiphone was before or after 1902?
I'm going before. I remember reading something about this recently, but I could be completely wrong. How they bought Epiphone.
Yeah, well, they bought Epiphone in 1957. They acquired it because it was one of their big rivals. But the Epiphone company was set up in 1873.
Ah, there we are.
In a part of the Ottoman Empire, which is now part of Turkey.
Oh,
So they were making more traditional instruments. They moved into guitar instruments, but yeah, making guitars before Gibson. So Gibson acquired Epiphone in 57. When did Fender acquire Squire? Was that before or after? I thought that was a sort of linked question. That'd be after is up. Before. Maybe this isn't as fun and interactive as I hoped. I'll stop with this.
I'm getting right all the time, so I'm happy so far.
I actually thought Squire was a name that they thought up themselves. I didn't know that was a company they acquired.
Yeah, so here's the Squire were a company that already existed. They were founded in 1890, and they made strings for instruments. So they're an American company. They made, I think they were most famous for violin strings, and Fender went to them and asked them to produce strings for the electric guitar when they were developing and making the electric guitar to sell. And then they acquired them after Gibson acquired Epiphone. So they acquired them in 1965. And when they acquired them, they kept the name for a little while, but they ended up just changing it to Fender strings instead of Squire strings. So Squire disappeared as a company. And then the name was brought back at a later stage for their kind of budget range.
That means they're going to bring back the Sun name as well. Maybe.
Tell us, do you remember much about Sun? I don't know enough about them.
They were a guitar amp company that got bought by Fender and sunsetted at some point, not that long ago, 70s, 80s, something like that. I don't recall when. I know because it's one of the amps I really want, because it'll demolish my building if I run it.
So I think actually I was talking to someone about that yesterday, because I think I might be wrong. There's a British company called RD Amplification, and they might have just made an amp that's based on that some old Sun design. It's meant to be really loud. I don't know if I could justify playing loud anymore. Great. So, Arran, when we were talking about what to focus on today, you were mentioning that you already had some plans for builds. So I was wondering, maybe we could start off just if anyone's got any of their plans for what they want to achieve building-wise this coming year.
Yep. I'll kick off with what I've sort of got in mind. So the first one I'll be doing is for the Ergs Cup. So basically, I'm going to go with the use what you've got idea. So I've had a bit of a scrounge through all the parts and pickups and things that I've got, and I'm basically decided I've got the Northern Silky Oak left over from the build-off guitar, and for that one it's the plank that I tested all the stains on, and for that I was it actually the Silky Oak looks really good with colour on it, but when I had the Blackwood as well on the top, it wasn't the right choice. So for this one, it will definitely be stained. I'm going to hold myself accountable for that. So I think the plans to make a three-neck guitar for it. So just the dimension of the plank that I've got at the moment, I'm going to give that a go. Don't know whether I'll kind of have the wings the same colour or natural or vice versa. So that's kind of the idea for that. I've had, people when they've upgraded sort of cheap hardware or, kit guitar parts on guitars, they've kind of, given the cheap stuff to me because, they know that I build guitars and might have a use for them. So it's that kind of perfect time now. So the goal for that one is that I'll kind of hope with the construction and the timber, it'll be mostly the Silky Oak. And I've got some other Australian hardwoods for fretboards that I'll kind of choose, and then probably all the hardware and pickups will be the cheaper, use what I've got stuff lying around, and then over time I can kind of replace those things as I choose, moving down the track. So that's kind of the first one that I am planning on doing, and the other one that I've actually been thinking about doing a bass guitar for quite some time. And I'm not I'm a bass guitar player because I'm a guitarist, so I wouldn't call myself a bass player really. So I've thought about it for a long time because I kind of want to get it right or something that will be unique to me, or because I don't plan on making a lot. So my latest thought for that is that I'm a bit of a Beatles tragic and diehard fan. So I've always thought, well, like a Beatles-inspired guitar. And my brother's got one of the Hofner. I think it's the Ignition series, like the cheaper Hofner, the Paul McCartney style bass. So the plan is to make sort of a version of that, but they're kind of notoriously uncomfortable to play. You can't really use your fingers. It's got to be pick only kind of thing to get a good sound. So the plan's to make. I've actually got it home at the moment to measure up and get all the neck dimensions right. But then I'll kind of put it on the body shape that I've been using for the last few guitars as it's obviously a short scale bass guitar. So it's kind of, it'll be the neck and the scale length will be Hofner inspired. The body shape will be mine. Hopefully I can make it a bit more comfortable to play. But I'll try to get a set of I think you can buy like the Ignition Hofner pickups. So I'll get a set of those. And just to see how close like the sound will be, not that, it's not going to be an acoustic instrument by any means. And even by doing a bit of research, the switching system on those is a bit kind of unique that I think because they've got the version I'm going to make, the neck and the bridge pickup are kind of like more electric guitar. They're pushed, out to the extreme. And the switching on it, I think there's on and off switching, and then there's like a solo boost. But they've actually got where is it in the switches? They've got resistors in the switches. So when the idea is that the neck pickup will be the bassier pickup, than the bridge pickup. But they've actually got a resistor in it to cut it. I think so it must cut out some of the treble on the neck pickup. So they've kind of they're trying to make the pickup bassier by cutting out some of that high end with resistors. So my plan is to sort of play around with that. So to have sort of the switching so that I can kind of replicate, what the actual Hofner has, but then kind of like another switch where I can kind of bypass all that, and it's a more of a standard neck and bridge sort of pickup. So they're the ideas that are floating around my head. And I think it'll be a fun, something a little bit different than a bass because, as I said, I can't see myself making a lot of bass guitars for myself, so I want it to be something unique and a little bit different. And I think this will be a good idea. So they're kind of the main sort of two projects that I'll kind of have planned for the first 6 months, and then see what happens from there.
Nice. I like the idea of a retro-looking instrument that also can sound a bit more modern, potentially.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how the electronics, sort of work, and to get the actual, the Hofner Ignition pickups. I've searched around, and you can sort of get some of those. So and it won't be like a shootout to see. I'm not building it to see if I can make it sound the same. I'm going to make the neck dimensions the same. I might even make it a semi-hollow body, put some chambering in, just to almost make it lighter as well. But then kind of, see how close it does, sound and feel to an actual Hofner.
Nice. Has anyone else got any plans coming up or ambitions for what they want to make?
Far too many.
Nothing solid.
I've just started work on my Jurg's Cup build. I've got a 2-inch thick slab of paper that I'm currently trying to joint, and don't try that at home. It sucks. So that's going to be a bit of an experimental build. Going to try and keep it as absolutely minimal as possible, minimal electronics, pretty much, and only the stuff that I've got lying around the house. So that'll be cool. I've also come up with a couple of my own designs. I've decided to start going into some designs, and I've got a cyberpunk inspired build, and I'm going to build 2 at the same time, and then give one away as a subscriber giveaway. So it worked quite well for Todd back in the day. So I figured it might help me build my channel a little bit. And I've got that pickup winder I'm going to start working on soon, because there's this guy called Mark Gutierrez, I believe his name is, and he recently did his taking apart the UHF transmitter and making the take-out pickup, the wireless pickup, and I absolutely love that. So I'm looking to see whether I can incorporate some kind of a micro preamp and one of the wireless transmitter units and some kind of built-in battery and a charger. Or my wife even had the idea of the wireless phone chargers. So if I can build that into the back of the battery, into the back of the guitar, and then just have that built into the stand and have a completely wireless system. So I'm going to start playing with that. So thank you for the inspiration, sir.
Yep. Yeah, you probably want to think about maybe taking that wireless transmitter and putting it basically closer to where the output jack is. That way you can have multiple switching, because my wireless pickup was just one pickup. And so I can't use the other 2 pickups. But if you put it after the switch where the jack is, then you have, all those combinations, and that probably better.
That's exactly what I was thinking for this build, is just to have all the wiring completely normal with the pickups, and then just completely ignore the jack, wire in the wireless, and then just have either a small USB-C charger or have the
power bank
wireless charging system, and then just have it just completely wireless.
Yeah, and then you can use inductive charging, like you said. Just put it on the stand or in the case and it charges.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed the industry hasn't made some of these innovations. Actually, I'm not. Our people are stupid.
100%.
They did in 52. No need to change.
Yeah. I mean, Fender didn't want to put wireless in his system, so why should we?
Right. Leo didn't do it. Why would we?
That's kind of a concern that I've seen so many times recently, is that people are like, oh yeah, no, you have to use hide glue because that's what they've always used. No,
and nitro.
you have to use this specific. You have to use a 250 pot for this. You have to use a 500 pot for that. No, you don't.
Has anybody ever come across those laser pickups?
I built one.
Yeah?
I've never wound a pickup before, and so I didn't want to contribute to that conversation we had earlier, but I do have a video on my channel where I built a laser pickup just using one of those garden solar paneled lights that you have out in your garden. Took apart the solar panel, took one of those laser pointers from a Black & Decker line level, so those levels that have a laser, and then just mounted it all with tape on my guitar, and I was able to make a pickup out of the laser hitting the strings. They basically do whatever the string does with the laser, and then the solar panel picks up all that electromagnetic induction and then takes it out to the jack. So it's, that video never did well. It was kind of a crazy idea that I had that I just implemented and was really quick. But if you guys want to see a laser pickup that's totally useless and dumb, I have that on my channel. And then on another note, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation about Gibson. I do have another video on my channel where I actually own a actual 1959 Gibson Les Paul blank from the Kalamazoo factory. And it's stamped Kalamazoo, stamped 1959. I'm sitting on it, right? I might sell it one day. I don't know.
You can't maybe build a guitar out of it, can you?
Well, I've never built a Les Paul, right? So I'd have to learn how to build a Les Paul before I build it. But anyway, another video I have on my channel. I go through the history of where that blank came from, where I got it. So if anyone's interested in seeing that, that's also on my channel. Shameless plug.
Mark, I don't want you to give us too many spoilers, but if you've got plans for other interesting things that the guitar industry won't make, but someone has to, coming up.
It's probably things that no one wants to hear, but I'm trying to do a series on things coming out of these overseas factories. And so I'm going to be doing a video on Chinese necks And then I'm going to be doing a series on really inexpensive guitars from overseas factories that are just blowing my mind. And so I just bought one, and it's got roasted flame maple for the neck, stainless steel frets, locking tuners, and it was for $149, that whole guitar. And it's just blowing my mind. And it starts to make me rethink, like, how can we be competitive as guitar builders? How can we compete? What do we have to learn from those Chinese factories so that we can stand out in some way? And so these are the kind of things that are in my head, and I'm going to be doing a whole series on that because the things we do have to be different than what's coming out of the overseas factories. Now, surely, we use exotic woods, we have laminated necks, we do all these things to kind of stand apart from what's coming out of these overseas factories, but it's only a matter of time. Like, it used to be like a couple of years ago, like only maple was coming out, and now we have flame maple and roasted maple. And I bought a roasted maple neck for like $60, whole neck, right? Fender style replacement neck. And if you go to SteamAC, just a torrefied board, your blank is like $76. So it's just crazy what's coming out of these overseas factories. And it's only a matter of time before we start seeing exotic woods, because it's going to be easier for them to source exotic woods than it is for us in the States, at least. And so I'm going to be doing a whole series of that. And I know that might kind of disrupt and maybe make people a little bit mad, especially new builders. But that's what we need to think about. How do we stand apart from anything that's coming out of the overseas factories, and how do we compete? All right, level of effort, cost, materials.
There is no competing. You just can't, because they don't have copyright laws. So they will copy your stuff and keep it for themselves, and you can go to court if you want to, but they don't recognize it. So, sorry.
Child slave labor.
The only thing you can say is we don't build it with slaves.
Well, that's the other thing, because what we have is, and I've said this before in some of my other videos, where a CNC machine doesn't care if it's in America or if it's in China. It runs the same tool paths, right? It runs the same operations. It really comes down to a matter of fit and finish. What we think of as quality, right, isn't how it's constructed. It's the fit and finish that comes afterwards. Contact. So what that means is, how is the finish applied? Is everything smooth? Are the transitions nice? What was the fret job like, right? And those are the kind of things that really set us apart, but again, not for long. And we have to start thinking about like scalability and sustainability and how are we going to compete in the future? Because right now we're cool, but that's not going to last very long.
You could always put software in it. As long as you've got software in it, you've got a competitive edge.
Yeah, but for a limited time. I mean, I'm really interested in the conversations both we had with Mark and with Curtis about kind of thinking about the materials and eco-friendly materials. And like Curtis just said, he's making a guitar body out of paper. That kind of finding new ways to use things.
Parker. Do you remember Parker Guitars?
Oh, yeah.
They were the ones that came out in the 90s and said, let's throw away all of that really, really old stuff that your granddad used to build guitars with, and let's build it using new technologies. And they got bought by somebody, and they've essentially disappeared.
Yep. I was lucky enough to, I owned a Parker. I sold it. I regret it. But I've always been kind of an early adopter in those kind of guitars and ideas. And yeah, they're great. And that's another thing. Like I collect guitars. Parkers are a great investment. If you take a look at the appreciation values, like if you can find a Parker Fly Deluxe at a really low price, just buy it because it's just going to appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that.
But yeah, Ken Parker is pretty awesome. He's one of my favorite builders, and those Parker Flies are just absolutely amazing. And getting back to pickups, there was a little bit something unique about those pickups because the guitar was so thin, right? DeMars, you had to make a thin pickup to fit in there, and the mounting's different, the routing's different. And so like all those kind of little concepts had to change because the guitar was so thin. So Curtis, when we think about like, a wireless pickup, well, that's great. We can start thinking about maybe now getting back to like winding pickups. How thin can we make the pickups, right? And now how small can we make the routes? Can we flat pack them? Can we put them on top, like surface mount them? Do we even need routes? Like all these questions start to kind of like ping around in your head. It's like there's so many ideas if we just change one little thing.
What if instead of having 6 poles with a single coil around it, which makes no sense to me, so rails make perfect sense to me because it's a single unit, it's a single transducer. What if you took one magnet, a round coil, and then had 6 of those as your pickup? Has anybody ever tried that?
I have, I'm not going to say I tried that, but I have another video. I hate plugging this. I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I have another video where I built a pickup out of an electromagnet. You guys can go watch that later. So it's a single electromagnet with a single coil with its wraps, and it's off the shelf. Like I try to do everything and source everything off the shelf so anyone can build it. And I put, I think, 4 in a row, and that was as far as I got because I couldn't figure out how to mount them really. But yeah, it's that's a great idea.
I've definitely seen it on a bass.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But I don't remember it for seeing it on a guitar. Jackson's just said, have you guys seen the new Seymour Duncan system that connects to your phone or tablet? So you can modify the sounds from an app.
I thought that's what you Kemper did.
It just makes sense for your guitar to be Bluetooth. I mean, at this point.
I get enough distortion on my phone. I don't need it from that as well. I'm good.
No, your phone adds distortion.
But we play guitar so we don't have to play with phones.
Right?
Although saying that, I do wonder how my guitar playing would have been different if I'd had mobile phones and the internet when I was a kid. I think
YouTube at half speed. Yeah.
But no, you're saying about the composite side of things. I mean, is it Aristed's? I don't know the pronunciation. It's a Dutch company,
Yep.
and they've got a composite, and they won't even say what it is. It's some kind of fiberglass, some kind of carbon composite thing, and it kind of made me wonder, just how far you can go with that. I mean, I'm actually trying to design my own composite. I'm going to call it GRCRP. Goth Rider Creations reinforced plastic, because I've got so much materials here from my early days doing sort of composite work that you don't just have to have the standard. I mean, like Richlight and I think Rocklight are the only 2 kind of synthetic fretboards that you can get at the moment, which is paper or thin strips of wood glued together. But I'm wondering why you can't do it with cotton, why you can't do it with fiberglass, why you can't do it with paper. I mean, obviously you've got Richlight paper, but there's so many different options. And considering how hard it is to get things like ebony and rosewood at the moment, and everyone seems to have just moved towards maple, it's just it's going to be an interesting time, I think, in the next few years when the manufacturers, as Mark was saying, the Chinese company is going to start moving to exotic woods. It's going to be interesting to see what else they move to, whether carbon fiber is going to become even more ubiquitous as it is at the moment, and sort of things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring that this year.
I want to see aerogel. That would be cool.
Did you see the glass guitar?
Yeah.
Built the entire guitar, including the neck and the fretboard, from glass. That was really cool.
Yeah, he produces them now.
And the whole time he did it, I was thinking about the number of times you just accidentally nudged it and it fell off of its stand.
Or breathed in all those tiny little bits of glass when you didn't have proper protective masks and things on as he was standing or doing whatever he was carving it with.
It just goes to show that the only thing you need on a fretboard is frets and something to hold your finger behind it. So you can make it out of anything you like, as long as it's got the strength.
Yeah, weight is an issue. Also, getting back to what Curtis was saying, like I have an Aristides guitar. It's made out of Arium, so no wood, but it's so heavy. Like it's a composite material. Who knows what it is? Secret ingredient, but it's very heavy. Same thing with Richlight. Like if you take a Richlight board next to your ebony or rosewood board, Richlight is so heavy, and that's a really big issue. So maybe glass is heavy too. I don't know, but you've got to start thinking about those composite materials and just make them rigid, but also make them lighter somehow.
Well, got titanium truss rod.
Well, I'd also thought about the fact that I mean, like wood has a little bit of give to it, and you know, it's kind of ideal for you know, fret tangs to sink into and bite into. You know, certain materials, I mean, especially like glass or something like that has no flexibility. It seems like it would be really hard to set frets in it. You know, I mean, you'd have to glue them. You just have to.
Do the Parker Fly method and you glue them.
Yep. Yep. Parker Fly didn't have tangs. 0 tangs on the frets.
Wow. Stainless steel glued on frets. They used to fall off as well.
Wow. Just glued flat onto the surface.
There's the actual fretboard has a little divot. So there's actually like little tiny little feet on the bottom of the fretboard where they kind of sit on the board, so you know where to seat it. But for the most part, it's just a flat fret that you're kind of gluing on.
Weird.
Did you ever see the Gittler?
Yeah, it's kind of like a minimal guitar, right?
It's just it looks like a lamp stand.
Yeah, built in like the 70s or something.
Yeah, it's an ancient thing. I couldn't believe how old it was. It's essentially just these really big, like lipstick tubes, which are your frets. There's 30 of them being held with a metal rod.
Mm.
That's super inspiring.
The guitar is.
Yeah,
I thought that thing was fairly new for some reason.
So did I until I researched it and found out, wow, not a good business model, obviously.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Let's share a picture. I've got a terrible picture of it. It said he started in the 60s and through to the 80s.
It didn't look super comfortable to play.
No, it didn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lap steel.
No, it's an electric guitar. Did you ask if it was a lap steel?
Yeah, lap steel guitar.
No, this is it being played.
Had they not brought them back recently? When you said they stopped in the 80s, I'm sure they've come back.
Oh, maybe. I just read the first line of the Wikipedia page, so that's clearly going to be the correct information there.
Clearly.
Yeah, those LEDs look period correct, definitely.
Green ones from the 80s, yes. You had 3 colors: green, amber, and red.
Oh, I've just heard an exciting doorbell. I'm not going to get it. Someone else is getting it, but I think that's the delivery of my new chisels.
Back to,
did you get the riders?
Back to old school wood.
Back to plans for the year. I don't have anything real solid, but before the last 2 guitars, I'd started a short scale bass that I need to get back to. I need to do something with it because I put a top together. It was White Limba and Bloodwood. I just haven't been excited about that one. But I have most builds, at least for me, are usually inspired by wood choices. And I recently got a hold of, I forget what the stuff is called, but it reminds me of Black Limbo, but it's darker. It's really pretty stuff. And I've got some weird, not quite pale moon ebony, which, would be great for fretboard for this thing. And Todd actually sent me a few tops, one of which was a burl that I'm going to have to do something with. So there are some things floating around my head that are going to, eventually turn into a plan. But I got to move on to something next. I have a commission that's been slowly, getting near completion as GGBO ran its course, and that thing will be wrapping up pretty soon, and I'm going to need to do something. So, but I never have a solid plan. GGBO comes along, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do, and then something just bang.
And what about yourself, Gordon?
My plans for this year are I'm going to build something later in the year, but until then, I've got a mountain of restorations and fixes to do on production guitars first. But they seem to be quite popular on my YouTube channel, so I'll do some of those. I've got one at the moment. It's actually my guitar teacher's guitar. It's a G&L ASAT Classic, and it's got a It's had a nasty fall. It's lost its scratch plate, and one of the potentiometers has been bent over. And I'm currently doing that at the moment.
Good thing it wasn't glass.
Yeah. It's got really strange pots in it because they're sealed. They're called Mighty Might, and I've never heard of those before. I did look it up. There's a guitar company that does it out of the States, but to get a pot imported from the States for £26 when it only cost me £1.50 off eBay for a standard same pot kind of doesn't make sense.
I've heard of Mighty Might. I can't
Do
remember.
pickups.
Wow. That might be where. Okay. It may have been Guitar Fetish pickups where I heard of them.
Corey just put in the chat that he thinks they make necks as well.
Yeah, the name's familiar for me as well, but I can't picture exactly what they make.
And they made by the same people as Vegemite. Arran, surely,
I was thinking Mighty.
I certainly hope not.
They may be made out of Vegemite. Or vice versa.
Closest I could find was a Dunlop do sealed potentiometers, and they promise that you can have them for life and they'll never get dirty, they'll never get scratchy. But again, it's close to £30 for a single potentiometer. It seems a bit insane. I might just bend the pins straight and keep going.
Finding a fix is always fun. Yeah, so one of my plans for this year is to avoid doing restoration and repair work. I found that I this past year I tried taking on more work like that, thinking that would help bring in regular income. But actually, one of the problems with it is if someone comes to you with something they want fixed, they normally want it fixed quite soon. So then I drop the other thing I'm doing and work on that. And it's just meant that everything that I'm actually feeling more excited about, like my own builds and my own designs, are getting pushed further and further back and not getting finished. And I think actually a lot of the time with some of the repair work I've been doing, it's quite time consuming and fiddly and just not enjoyable. So that's it. I'm getting rid of the things that aren't enjoyable in my life, try and do something new. One of the first guitars I made, so this is 10 years this year since I started working on guitars. One of the first ones I made was a Ghostbusters inspired one, and there's a new Ghostbusters film coming out in March. So I've been planning now for over a year a Kickstarter campaign to try and find a way to find an audience that my guitars can fit and target them somehow, if that makes sense. So I want to try this Kickstarter thing. I'm actually going to be a bit cheeky and share an image with you because I'm really happy with what I've got as a concept. I'm not sure how I'll use it going forward, but I've made this mold, which is like the top of the guitar. And essentially it's like if you imagine just putting you might put a wooden laminate on the top of your guitar anyway. And it's the same mold that I'm using. See, these are resin casts at the moment, but I've designed it so it can be this was a 5-string bass, but I can use the same mold to make a 4-string, to make a 6-string or a 7-string guitar, and it all fits. The spaces are all there. So I just literally cast that bit, stick it on the top of wood, route out the right bits for it. I'm quite excited by it.
That's so cool, Daniel. That's so cool.
But I'm thinking that the idea of potentially doing a Kickstarter might be another way of trying to make things without me getting more and more in debt. Because with a lot of my guitars, I spend so much time and money on making them, and then I have to try and sell them. And some of my guitars, it's like 3 years between when I start investing all the money in it before I see any return on it. And I've got to change that round somehow, which is why trying to get the money in advance is the way. But I spent a lot of time on those last year, and one of them was a commission for someone that really sparks it all off, the 5-string bass. So that's already been made as a proof. So see. Oh, if I do, Scott, you're muted. I can see your lips moving.
Yeah. that upfront money.
Yeah, he's
is
just
a lot.
waking up. It's fine. He's just waking up.
Yeah, I will be for the next 2 hours. Yeah, the last few guitars, the $550 minimum, hardware and material. And one of them was a commission that, I didn't get anything up front, and he's been flaking for 1.5 years. So you got to watch that.
I see. Geo does a bit of work for fixing and stuff as well. Yeah, I kind of thought that might be a really good way as well to experience more guitars, to play more, to try more out. It has been quite fun. It's one of the things that's got me into liking tellies now, because I've had maybe tellies need more repair than more, or maybe they're just more popular. So there's more of them coming through.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. Yeah. But yeah, I have a different appreciation of them, having grown up loving Strats more.
See, I was under the impression that a lot of people got to building through doing repair, and I kind of always regretted the fact that I didn't have that start and that experience in repairing and setup and all that. I figured it was a handicap on my part not having that background, because like I said, it seemed like a lot of builders started there and just naturally moved into, why don't I make my own?
Isn't like the most famous origin story, Paul Reed Smith? I think he started off fixing guitars, and not just fixing guitars. I could be wrong with this story, but I heard that he took on the repairs that no one else wanted. So the craziest repairs that everybody passed, he took on those. He was the guy you went to for the repairs that no one wanted. And I think that's a great origin story.
Right.
It's really romantic.
Didn't Grover Jackson do something similar?
Geo's just said something good. By repairing other people's guitars and trying out all those guitars, it's a great way to benchmark your own builds too. Because I remember Scott saying in a previous chat, a lot of boutique guitars, at least I noticed in this country, if you go to shows, a lot of boutique guitars seem to go for around £2,500. That seems to be the average that most of them are, give or take. And how many of us have played £2,500 guitars or multiple ones to try out? Not that many. So it's hard to know what are you getting for that £2,500 that makes it better than a
What other people would expect for that money.
Yeah, the expect, that's a good point. Well,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting everyone dizzy with pressing buttons.
I don't think there's much difference between a cheap guitar. No, there's not a lot of difference between an affordable guitar and an extremely expensive guitar. I think it's just the history. So there was a video I watched recently, Ibanez Gems. There's 3 different levels of them. Is it 3 or 4? There's 4 different levels of them, I think. There's the Japanese-made originals. There's the Korean-built ones. There's the Indonesian-built ones, and there's the Gem Juniors. And he tested all of them to see what the difference was, and the price varies wildly between them. Gems go for £3,500, £5,000, maybe more. Gem Juniors are like 350 quid. And he said the difference between them was slight at best. But you can't sell your Gem Junior for £5,000. So that's moving into the investment trade.
Well, a lot of things can, rely on a brand name or, nostalgia or, age, some things like that. But in the boutique world, I mean, we know with time invested, material, hardware, I mean, $2,000 is like bare minimum. You're not even really making money doing that. But how many people are going to pay, much less more for, a custom build? I think a lot of people are afraid to buy something that's not from a big manufacturer, a known company. That seems to be an issue too, a lot of times. I don't know how people make money doing this. I really don't. Like I said, I've said a million times, I spent like 3 seconds thinking, ooh, this would be cool to do, all day long, as a job. and then realized, realistically, there's no way in hell I could make money doing it. Not me, anyway.
That was 2 seconds less than the last time you told me.
Yeah. So, well, you know, it's a rough estimate. It went by so fast. But
I always got,
I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
There you go. Yeah, I kind of think that people that are buying like a custom guitar have already probably got a couple of the big name brands, or they've been playing a while, and they know, you know, what they like and what's out there. So they want something that's unique to them. So I think the market is, you know, a lot smaller, because it's not going to be your beginning guitarist or someone who's necessarily just sort of started playing the guitar. Like, you know, they're going to see their guitar hero and they're going to say, all right, I want one of those guitars, and that's what I'm going to learn on. So I think the market is, and you know, I'm obviously not an expert or anything, but that's the way I kind of think of it, that we probably would be building for people who have already played or owned a lot of the big name brands and know what they like, what they don't like, and then by going to, you know, a boutique builder, they get something that's unique to them or that no one else has, or it's the scale length that they want, or even the control layout, you know, that will be comfortable for them.
Well, if you can find that dream customer that really knows exactly what they want, that would be awesome, you know, rather than, you know, somebody that just, you know, okay, I can get a custom thing. I want everything you could possibly imagine on this thing. Or even worse, you know, my grandkid's thinking about guitar, you know, lady, go to Guitar Center, you know.
Isn't that one of your builds this year, Daniel, to build the everything guitar?
Oh, well, that was the build that's taken me 6 months. And yeah, so I want to send it off to my client next week. I don't think it's going to be finished, but it's so close now. So essentially, he bought one of my end of the road guitars through Reverb, one of the ones that looks broken. And he said, actually, I prefer playing baritone. Do you mind? I've got a baritone conversion neck. Could you put that on? And I said, well, actually, it might be easier for me just to make a new body. If you send me a neck, I'll make a new body and do it like that. And he said, oh, yeah, well, in that case, do you mind using this paint? And I didn't at all. So I said, well, okay. But then I think he wanted this chameleon paint. I said, it might look better as a slightly different design. So then it became just a standard sort of looking Strat. But he wanted all the controls hidden internally. So I had to devise a way to put it on the back. The problem I have with the way I work is a lot of my designs, when I'm doing that, I design it by making it. So I'm chopping and changing. And if I was to make it 2 or 3 times, I'd get like the perfect design and it all be perfectly spaced. And then the first few times, it's a bit more trial and error. So suddenly, when I'm doing something totally different to what I've done before for a client, it's going to take me a lot longer. It's going to be a lot harder than if I'm just recreating something I've done before. So that became a bit hard. And then he's got the Yngwie Malmsteen pickups, which are like stacked humbuckers. They're single coils, but they're really single coil footprint, but they're humbuckers. Then we've got an Eric Clapton boost on it, which I thought wasn't working when I got it all finally set up last month. And it's just because those Yngwie Malmsteen pickups are so hot that as soon as you put the boost on and drive it, everything just distorts. So you can use it, the boost, but it has to be quite low. So it's almost pointless having it there, but he wants it there. And then it's got a piezo pickup, a Graphtec Ghost pickup in the bridge, which actually I'm blown away by how good it is. It sounds as good as a magnetic coil pickup, but it's just that. But it's got its own preamp in the guitar as well. So now I've got the Eric Clapton boost and the preamp. It's got 2 kill switches that are LED powered, or not LED powered, they've got LEDs in them, but the LEDs are controlled by the 5-way switch. As you change the switch, the colours of the LED change. And he wanted a 10-way switch, but the 10-way switch isn't compatible with them. And I only found that out after I bought it and tried to wire it all up, so that went out the window. But the hardest thing was the paint. I feel I'm quite good at finishing guitars, but this paint was so thin and different to what I'd used before. I ended up doing it 3 times, and it was £100 in paint each time. So it's just added up and taken so long, and it's been a nightmare. So I've vowed to myself not to take on a project for a client which is so electrical based inside, and where things keep being added as we go along. So it's going to be, we agree on what's going in and then no changes, as opposed to, can you do this? Because we've also now put LEDs in the back, and that was a whole other system that the battery for them was contradicting the battery for the it's so boring. I'm boring myself. The hours I've spent rewiring this as well. I mean, I could have made 4 of the other guitars that he originally bought for it. But he's been really good. Like, he doesn't mind the fact that things keep going wrong and we have to try it out, and that certain things that he wants we don't know aren't compatible until we've tried them together. Because no other luthier would do this for him, he's very happy to like pay for extra paint to try things out. I'm now realizing why no other luthier would try it for him. But
another Paul Reed Smith story there, Daniel. You're the PRS of our community.
Basically, build custom guitars for builders who can't build.
Well, he's a player, so he makes his living out of playing, and he's got quite a massive collection of guitars. I think he just wanted something that was very different to what he had, which is totally fair enough. I've got no objection with all of that, but like I said, there were things he wanted that we didn't know until we tried them together don't work. Because on paper it was just simply, you plug this into that, you wire that into here, and it should all work together. But of course, when someone's designed a pickup system or a boost system or a different preamp, they're not necessarily expecting you to put it in a guitar that's got all of these other things in it as well. They're expecting you to put it into a guitar as the only upgrade in that guitar.
This is where you are the perfect inspiration for me, because since I lost my job recently, I've had so many family and friends going, "Oh, what about the guitar thing? You're doing the guitar thing. Start selling guitars. Start making custom guitars." And it's like, yeah, I know. The first customer I get will be that guy. And then I'm in all kinds of trouble.
It
seems like
industry has built itself around dealing with those kind of people in those scenarios.
I'm starting to think that as business model, building like a single custom guitar is really maybe not a sound strategy. I remember like back in the old days, like 20 years ago, like the boutique industry then, right, looking at buying custom guitars. And a lot of the builders who were, out of their shop or the garage wouldn't build one-off customs. They do production runs. They do a run, right? So you have to do a cost analysis on your materials, and you have to figure out what your profit margin is. And the more you can get in your run, the bigger your profit margin. And so I like your idea, Daniel, with the Kickstarter. That makes more sense, because with the run, you get your money in advance. You've acquired your materials cheaper because you've bought them in bulk, right? And your profit margins just go up. And you just basically do a mini assembly line. That seems like a better business model than doing kind of the one-offs where your profit margin is so small and your level of effort is so huge.
So completely, when I first started, those end-of-the-road guitars I was making 3 or 4 at a time, and maybe they would sell over the period of 6 or 7 months. But to make 3 or 4 at a time took longer than making them 1 at a time, but maybe only twice as long, because I had the system set up. Do all the bodies in one go with the same template, sort of just go through and do it like this and that. And I think that's what I've got to go back to, and that's why I want to try the Kickstarter to do that. But now I've got that design, and I've got this system which took me a while to work out how to lay out the guitar so that I can use the same body for any type of guitar that people want. I think that I can do that for other things as well and just repeat it. So each time now I'm going to work on a guitar, it's going to be one that I make of. Maybe it won't be Kickstarter. I want to try the Kickstarter once, but it will be something I do at least 4 of in one go, because, as you say, the costs and time is reduced, and hopefully then it'll be easier to sell them. I was making more money when I first started 10 years ago because I just had more to sell. And now I'm making less money because when the commissions come in, the commissions, like I just said, take ages. And there's a limit to how much I can actually charge someone before I don't get customers.
Yeah. I was going to say a little bit ago, a couple of years ago, Texas Toast was still involved with GGBO, and they were reviewing our videos. They kept talking about, well, I don't see how that, that's not very repeatable. And clearly they were concentrating on, repeatability, where they could just, pump out a bunch at a time. And at the time I was thinking, that's not me. That's just, I understand that you guys are a guitar shop and you're trying to make money by, producing units, and you have your models and your runs. And I just like to build one at a time, just, for fun. But again, that's one of the many reasons why I wouldn't want to turn it into a business. Is it's a hobby, and it's I want to keep it that way. I want to keep it fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've kind of got a crazy idea for the cyberpunk build that I'm going to start soon. Is that if I can keep the bodies quite modular and have a neck through design, and then kind of almost bolt on wings to the sides, then I can literally churn out, templating from like a router template or something like that, and just run out, a dozen bodies at the same time, different woods or different paint finishes or whatever else. And there's a guy, I don't know if anyone else has seen him, Scar My Guitar. He makes a lot of his money, other than Temu recently, which we won't go into. But he just makes a dozen guitars at the same time with his CNCs and sells them as kits, and literally just advertises and says, I've got 12 kits, who wants it? $500 each, done. And he seems to sell them within a couple of days, and then waits another month and does another production run. I think that might be kind of a way forward, especially in our kind of realm, is to have kind of bespoke kits. It's like, do you like this style? Buy it, assemble it, done.
I'm going to have to watch this back, because I'm getting full of ideas for this discussion. Yeah, I'd never thought about, well, I had once thought about the idea of making kits, but what I'd thought about was like a kit of things you can put on a kit guitar to change it and evolve it, like when I make my kind of more arty guitars. But actually, that whole Ghostbuster thing, that could be a kit. That would be easier to produce. And I think it might appeal to those people that like building their own proton packs, which is a bigger thing, as you might know, Curtis, from your prop building love.
And it's also another thing is that I think Tim Sway, he did a series recently where he did a guitar design, and then he gave people the CNC files so they could do it on CNC, or you could buy templates to make it by hand or whatever. And he just literally gave all these different options and said, right, if you want to buy a kit from me, I'll send you a kit. If you want the files, I'll send you the files. If you want the entire guitar, I'll make you the entire guitar. And then as long as you've got those kind of templates and bodies and a few bits ready to go, then it's entirely up to the purchaser. It's going to be a lot cheaper and easier to send it as a kit than it would be to make the entire guitar, finish it to someone's specific standards with $500,000 worth of paint and electronics, where, just send them a neck, send them a body, unfinished, here's some electronics,
Absolutely. That is a fantastic business model. But to kind of take that a step further, like what I do is I have a store and I sell digital files. So my stock unit for each digital file is 1 million, and I have no overhead, right? So like it just sits there. You have to have something out in the market. You have to have something. And so every build I do, I'm trying to put all the digital files on there, and I'm putting like as many types of digital files as possible, because it doesn't cost me anything. And it can sit there, and I can have 1 million units, and I just let it go, like let it do its own thing. And you're right. People think, hey, I can do this. I can build this from scratch, from a file, on a CNC, on a laser, whatever. But getting one step above that, if you make kits, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's just a better business model, right? Because you can do your custom builds, Scott. You can make your one-off customs, but then you can also have maybe like just some parts and bits and pieces that people can do on their own. So you don't have to sell that $2,500 guitar. You can sell just a couple of necks or bodies and let them build on their own, then paint themselves. And so again, the level of effort for us goes down, but like our costs and our profit margin goes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's also
What
the
about-
option for different finishes as well. Sorry, Aaron. In that, you were saying about the difference between a £5,000 guitar and a £500 guitar is basically the finish, the fit and finish, the polish, the attention to detail. But some people don't need that. Some people might want to literally just take it out of the case and play it, and that's it. Other people want to tinker and want to do bits and pieces. So having those kind of layers of availability,
Well, like with the advent of GGBO, I don't know if it's illusion or if I don't know what you call it. The number of people that are getting into building has really seemed to increase. So I hadn't thought about, kits really being something viable for really making money before. But if this market is growing, if there really are, more and more people falling into, doing this, maybe Crimson was onto something when they, decided to do the tools.
Well, one of the things I was just sort of going to say before is that I'm sort of at the stage, I enjoy making guitars for myself, but there is a limit for how many I can sort of have here. So to do, commissions every now and then is really good for the few that I've done. But I've even thought about just focusing on the body. So if I can source, and I've been trying to use just Australian timbers, and I'm sort of discovering some sort of better suppliers that aren't just building guitar body blanks and guitar necks that are at slightly higher price than just buying the bits of wood yourself, to actually, just focus on building a number of bodies for the shape and design that I do. And then when I, because then I still get the enjoyment out of the woodworking side of it. I'm not outlaying a lot of money for it. And then if someone is after a commission, I can say, well, here's, 3 or 4 different wood combinations that I've sort of made already. So I'm not sort of building like a whole guitar and having to buy all of the hardware and pickups and with, the hope that I will be able to sell it and recoup that money back. So really just, focusing on, building a handful of bodies with different sort of timber combinations. And then, and it's more just so then I'm still having fun building something. And if I do, half a dozen of those over 6 months and it hasn't cost me a whole lot of money, then, when I do get people wanting a commission of that shape, I've kind of got part of that process done already.
What about, I've got a really cool idea. Probably not very original, but what if one of us was to lay down a neck and then ship it off to somebody else in the group who then puts on the fretboard, and then they ship that off to the next person in the group who builds the body, etc., etc., etc. That would be cool.
This is something that I've wanted to look at for a while, is that I'm in the process of making fretboards from different laminates, and I'm hoping to trade those to other people, Guitar Builder Collective, GGBO people, and just sort of see, whether Mark would be willing to make me a nice CNC nut for one of my builds, and then trade him a carbon fiber fretboard. And I know Corey in the chat, I was talking to him recently, he's doing some resin fretboards as well, and he said that he might throw one my way once it's finished, and I'm looking at what I can send him. And it would be amazing to have, Scott start the neck or make the neck through section and then send it over to Arran, and then you do part of the body and then send it to Mark to do the electronics. There's something like that would be amazing. The postage would suck though.
Oh yeah.
Then at the very end, what you have to do is you have to take that build, and to recoup all the costs, you have to do a raffle, right? So you don't have a set price. You let that price go up as far as it possibly can.
Like an eBay or bidding war.
Yeah.
And share the profits.
Mick said, think about our carbon fiber footprints. Well, maybe we have to do this idea, Curtis, but there's enough people in different countries to have a UK one, a US one, an Australian one.
We've talked about about a year ago we chatted about that in one of the chat groups, I reckon, about an international country versus country,
It's a
All right.
fun challenge.
Well, one thing I really like that happens every year for Christmas on YouTube is some YouTube makers do a Secret Santa for each other, and it's like a circle. So you watch one which happens to be a video you're subscribed to, and channel you're subscribed to, and suddenly you realise they're making something for someone you've never heard of. So you go and watch their channel because you see the making on one video, and in the next video on the other channel you see them receiving it, and you see the finished product working, and then they make, and then you see where that goes, and it's like a circle, and it's brilliant. So I think Curtis and Gordon, you should get planning on that. I've just seen Corey's put in the chat that since the 24th of November, the Guitar Builders Collective Facebook group has grown by 120%, which is brilliant. So I think probably most people that watch this, I mentioned it earlier on, know about the Guitar Builders Collective, but essentially it's sprung up out of the Great Guitar Build Off, people who are taking part in that, people that are watching that, communicating with each other. As a result of that, a forum was set up, which there's links in the description for this. That's online. You have to join the forum to interact with it, but it's a really friendly space to share what you're working on, to ask questions if you've got any, and get support from each other. And then there's the Instagram page, which Corey himself actually is the main person managing, or the only person managing at the moment. And the Instagram page doesn't post anything original on it. It shares members' work. So if you're following the Guitar Builders Collective page, you'll get to see loads of the different members' work, and then you can go and follow their pages and potentially have some of your work shared. It's just a great way to have a nice sort of feed of both finished guitars and guitars being made. And then I can't remember how it started, but me and Scott were chatting, and then he introduced me to a little WhatsApp group, and through that got Arran involved with doing this podcast stream or live stream, whatever it's called. So yes, I think one of my aims for this year, because I enjoy it so much, is to try and help the community grow a bit and interact a bit more. And the reason I enjoy it is I found the guitar building, particularly since lockdown, and particularly since I've given up my other job just to do guitars, is quite lonely. I'm on my own in my workshop all the time. None of the people that I kind of knew that built guitars live anywhere near me. But through until now, where Curtis up there turns out does. But through that, it's been not just supportive, but it's been just a fun way of talking to other people and seeing other things that are going on and finding inspiration, doing things. And already mentioned a few times was the Jurgs Cup. I can't do it yet. I can't do it until this live stream finishes. But I'm going to pin in the comments section of the video a link to information about the Jurgs Cup. But essentially, I think that also might have been Corey who initiated that idea. It's in honour of Jürgen Zoller, who was Zoller Guitars, and during the Great Guitar Build-Off the first few years, he was really interacting on the community, commenting on people's videos and posts on Instagram, etc.
It was years before, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah. I guess that's when I first got involved.
So it's been, I don't know, 8 or 9 years that I've been doing videos, and he was one of the first people that was subscribed to me, and he always commented on stuff. And apparently there are plenty of other builders as well. He was probably the glue to an actual community that didn't know it existed.
Yeah, amazing. So the idea of the Cup is just to sort of help have a way to build that community. So although it's framed like a yearly thing, a yearly competition, the idea is it would just be a way for people to build along and share what they're building. So you could, for example, share on the forum. There's going to be a hashtag I am Jurgs. If you put that in anything and we're following that on Instagram, you'll see it. And I think what I want to try and do anyway is at the end of May, when we're sort of finishing this first round, is just ask people to somehow send me a photo of what they've built or have been building. It doesn't matter if it's not finished. And then on the Guitar Builders Collective page, we can put up an image of everyone that's done something with a link to their social media or whatever. And because there's an image there, anyone can comment on it and you can give feedback to each other, tell people what you liked about it. So it's not necessarily about a competition with a prize. It's about a competition with an outcome of being able to share in the community and maybe make new contacts like that.
Very cool.
And there's been suggestions that Mick and Corey have produced these T-shirts that if you want, you can get a T-shirt which has got some of Jürgen's designs on it. All the proceeds from that go to a leukemia charity or various leukemia charities. You don't have to do that. But that might be a way of helping spread the word as well. But I think we're going to talk about it a bit more. I said to Corey, I'd try and have a chat with him the next week or so and try and work out how we can coordinate just a bit more promotion. I've got a little clip at the end of this stream, which has got a bit more information as well.
Early morning for Scott.
Yeah, I was watching. I got distracted by Scott's yawn.
What time is it there in Texas?
It's a little after 8 now.
Okay, not too early.
Is it nearly 2 in the morning for you, Arran?
Yeah, it's early. It's early in the morning for me. It's 20 past 1 at the moment.
Right.
Starts at midnight
Have
for
you
me.
got,
But as
have you got school in the morning?
No, it's school holidays. That's why I'm quite happy to do this. So we since our Christmas holidays are summer for us here, we have like a 5-week break. So I'm not even counting days at the moment. So I'm more than happy to stay up late because the day's my own tomorrow, basically, apart from a few little things I've got to do.
Nice. Yeah, I'm late for work, but you know.
Oh well, we won't be much longer because I think it's nice to try and keep these under an hour and
for the community. Works pretty flexible for me. But.
Can I just make a request to anyone that's watching? Is that to try and potentially help build the community. Again in the description of this video, there's a link to all the playlist of all the live streams we've done, and the ones coming up will be advertised in that. There's also a link to the playlist of those shorter 10-minute 5 to 10 minute videos I made. It'd be great if you can do any sharing of them in forums or community tabs, things like that, if you feel it's appropriate, or sort of commenting and sharing all of that stuff. I've got a few things I'm going to try this week to try and get it out there a bit. And one of the things I'm doing is I've just started using an AI program. So I did a test on the last chat we did with a guest, which was with Mark, and I'm going to do it straight after this one. The AI program watches the video back. I'm sure it watches it with a cup of tea and a biscuit, and then it picks some themes from the show and it puts them together in clips 30 to 60 seconds long. And sometimes it's editing them from different parts, or sometimes it's just a straight 30 seconds. And they seem to be quite good, but they might not be, but we'll see. So I'll be trying to share them a bit. So yeah, look out for those too.
Interesting.
Very cool.
That was a thought I had for a random AI thing. That to do a part of a build, or I don't know, build something simple that's quite concise, and kind of edit my own version of what that would look like, and then give the same sort of footage and audio stuff to like an AI program to say, make a video on this, and then kind of compare it to the one that I have already made and haven't put on the internet, obviously, because I don't want to share the secrets with the AI robot, but just to kind of see what they would come up with compared to what I would edit together.
I think that's something Ray was talking about in one of our first live streams, Ray Baggett, about the idea of building with AI.
Yeah, yep.
No, you could make the shop and just have the AI build the whole damn guitar for you. It can come up with the idea, it can build it, and
I would buy a Skynet guitar any day. Absolutely.
Hey, Curtis, if you haven't seen it, I did the Ghostbusters Proton Pack just after I did my Terminator guitars, so you have to look back at those. It had an LED in it. It was very intelligent. The light went on.
Yeah, putting LEDs in the guitar is pain.
Yeah,
Broke mine so many times. It's probably why it's not finished. But I use such tiny components. I regret that to this day. I fixed it for the 3rd time and I thought, hey, it's working. All the lights come on, and there was a loose connection somewhere and half of them went off. No idea why.
it's all like a Christmas tree.
What was that, Scott?
Sounds like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Oh, it's a pain. But yeah, I'm going to figure out a different way of doing it because the LEDs look great when they're working. I
think Child of Animus, is that his name? He made a guitar with LEDs in it, but the frets were conductors. So when you
right.
put the hold a string
That
down,
looked great.
it was particular light.
Yeah, that was cool.
Retrofit, put all the circuitry on the front of the fretboard.
Yeah.
That way you can, you can retrofit other guitars. Somebody's got a production model something and you want LEDs on it, you can put them on.
There you go.
You'd have to take the frets off, of course.
I want to see in the future how dated all these ideas seem. My only regret is not living in the future, really.
We do live in the future.
2024. That's when the science fiction books are set. It's bonkers.
Oh no, there's Back to the Future was in 2015. That's long past. There's a list of them, and we've passed all of them.
Yeah, Running Man's been and gone.
I can't remember the rest.
Mnemonic.
1984 is well and truly gone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a meme about that just recently. Well, actually, it wasn't a meme, but it was a TikTok, I think. But yeah, said 2024 we should have flying cars, and instead we've got people dressed up like goats.
That's a great way to leave this podcast. So again, thank you everyone that's here. Curtis, Mark, Gordon for joining us.
Thank you.
Aaron's around for the rest of the month. You'll be joining us.
Yes, all of January will be fine, and then I'll have to reassess once school goes back at the end of the month. So yeah, we'll I think at least the ones you got scheduled, I think I'm good for.
Fantastic. Great. So I'm going to play a little bit of Jörg's Cup now, and thank you everyone in the chat, everyone watching in the future, and see you all soon.